This is the Leapmotor C10 Hybrid EV, and it might just be the best hybrid technology that you've probably never heard of. In this video, I'm going to explain what the Powertrain is, how it works, and how you can get the most out of it. So as the name suggests, it is a combination of a hybrid and an electric vehicle, or an EV for short. It shares many of the same components as a hybrid, such as an engine, a battery, and an electric motor. However, the key difference with this technology is that the petrol engine never drives the car. The only thing that drives this car is the electric motor. This creates that great electric drive feeling, which is quiet, smooth and responsive, but you get the added benefit of an extended range, which in this case is all of 975 kilometers. The petrol engine is simply there to act as a generator and to power and recharge the battery when needed. The Leapmotor C10 Hybrid EV comes with a 28.4 kilowatt battery. Now that's quite substantial. That would provide a standalone EV range of 145 kilometers. Now, to put that into context, the average daily commute here in Ireland is roughly 34 kilometers. That means you could do 4 days travel to and from work on a single charge. Now, what makes the Leapmotor's hybrid EV technology truly unique is that you can also plug it in. Currently in Ireland, the SEAI reckons that it costs just €3.27 per 100 kilometres to fuel an average EV, compared to almost €10 for the equivalent petrol model. That's a massive difference. So by using a plug instead of a pump, you can cut your fuel costs substantially. Now, another great benefit of the Leapmotor hybrid EV technology is that the battery is LFP, whereas most other plug-in hybrid batteries will be lithium ion. With an LFP battery, not only do you have the ability to fast charge it, but you also have the ability to fast charge it to 100%, unlike many lithium-ion batteries, which only recommend going to 80 or 90% to prevent battery degradation. This is a massive competitive advantage for Leapmotor, as it allows you to top up your battery quicker and for longer. Now, what's also great about the C10 Hybrid EV is that it comes with 4 adaptive energy modes, and this will allow you to maximize the range from your vehicle. Now we're going to take on a little spin, and I'm going to explain to you how those energy modes work and how you can get the best out of the vehicle. So first up is EV mode. This is the primary driving mode and the one you'll likely use for your day-to-day activities, such as your driving to and from work or popping to the shops. In this mode, the vehicle runs on the battery power, and the engine will only ever kick in if the battery reaches below 25%. At that stage, the generator will turn on, work quietly in the background, intelligently working out how much power is needed in order to power and charge the battery. One of the innovative elements of the C10 Hybrid EV is that it also comes with 4 modes of regenerative braking. So that means every time you use the brake pedal, you're actually helping to restore energy into the battery and essentially maximizing your range. So that's why this mode is great for those daily commutes where you'll be driving at an average lower speed, you'll spend more time on the brake pedal. This means you're conserving energy and you're actually helping to extend the range and getting much more range out of the battery than you would if you were driving at higher speeds, let's say. Whereas on those longer journeys at higher average speeds, particularly on the motorway, where you're spending essentially no time on the brake pedal, EV batteries will deplete their range much quicker, and this is where we would use one of our different adaptive energy modes. The one we would recommend for this situation would be fuel. In fuel mode, the vehicle will run on battery power first until it reaches a level below 80%. At that stage, the engine will kick in. It will begin to generate electricity by using the fuel, and it does this in order to supply sufficient energy to the battery, and it can actually manage to hold it at a predetermined level, such as 80%. This will be much more efficient at higher average speeds with less braking than it would if you were using pure battery power, so it will help you to get the most out of your vehicle. The next mode is EV Plus. It's very similar to the EV mode where you will be driving using the battery, but it essentially means that you can use battery power for longer. And that's because the only time the engine will kick in is when the status of the battery drops below 9%. So the engine will turn on automatically to ensure that the car has sufficient power to complete the journey. Finally, we have the Power Plus mode, where the ICE generator is working 100% of the time. In this mode, you're getting more power for more dynamic driving. This mode can be used in situations where the battery level is quite low, like less than 15%, or in extremely harsh, cold weather conditions, which thankfully we don't get a whole lot of here in Ireland. This will just ensure that the vehicle has sufficient power in those situations where the battery is quite low or that it is dealing with very harsh weather conditions that can deplete the battery quite quickly. So if we think of a typical week's driving that a lot of people will face, Monday to Friday, you might have your commute to and from work where you're going to spend a lot of time like I am now, and that is stuck in traffic, stopped, foot on the brake pedal. So here we would recommend you use EV mode. This is great because you'll be using battery power, but also every time you brake, you're also helping to restore energy into the battery and you're maximizing your range. The battery's going to work much more efficiently here than the petrol engine. So with an EV range of 145 kilometers, you could do over 4 days to and from work using the battery alone. You could then use your charger at home to top up, and you'll never have to use fuel for your work commute again. Then as we get to the weekend, people are going to be more likely possibly to take longer road trips. They'll be using the motorway, driving at higher speeds and going longer distance. So this is where we would recommend using the fuel mode. The vehicle will start in battery mode, so we'll be using the battery for the first 20%, but then once the vehicle drops below 80%, the engine will kick in, and this will help to maintain the battery level at a certain percentage, and it will also ensure that the vehicle has sufficient energy to meet the demands of the journey at higher speeds. And then for those extraordinary road trips or situations where you do find yourself with a battery that is quite severely depleted, such as less than 15%, that's where we would recommend switching it to Power Plus. This will mean that the engine is running 100% of the time, and this will ensure that your vehicle has sufficient power and energy in order to complete your journey. Now, the way that you can actually monitor and manage your range is by using this driver instrument panel in front of us here, so we can actually see our entire range of the vehicle. So in the bottom left hand corner of this screen, I can see that I'm currently driving in EV mode. Then I have the little petrol pump gauge. This will tell me how much range I have in terms of fuel. So the vehicle comes with a 50-litre fuel tank, so it's quite substantial. Then beside that we have the battery range, and then beside that you have your total range. So this is just simply a combination of your fuel plus battery range to give you a total vehicle range. Now, in order for you to select your adaptive energy modes, we can use this shortcut by simply pulling down on our central infotainment screen. Here we have access to some shortcuts, and we'll have our 4 energy modes: EV Plus, EV, Fuel and Power Plus. So this allows us to quickly change between driving modes should we need to. However, I'd always recommend at the start of your journey to select your preferred one for whatever scenario you're facing, whether it's a commute or a longer road trip, and that way you're all set for your journey. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video and you now have a clear understanding of the Leapmotor Hybrid EV technology and how it works. The key thing to remember is that despite whatever adaptive energy mode you're in, whether the engine is turned on or off, the only thing actually driving the car is the electric motor. Therefore, you'll always have that great electric drive feel. Safe driving.